I can't say for sure what happened to me that night, but this is what I know. I was driving home for the weekend from school at Indiana University. It takes me about 2 hours to get home, and I left Bloomington at around 10 p.m. At exactly 10:53, I am on a rural stretch of the 2-lane highway I take home, and I notice what appeared to be flashing lights behind me. I thought, great, I'm getting pulled over. So I turn onto the next country road about a quarter mile from where I noticed the lights. As the car came to a stop, I started to open my glove box to get out my registration and proof of insurance. The lights suddenly disappeared. No car drove past. Now, here's where the story takes a turn for the weird. And I'm sure you guys will think I'm making all of this up, but it really does seem like something straight out of a typical UFO movie or story. The electronics in my car started to go haywire. The radio was randomly changing stations while the volume kept going up and down. The dome lights in the headlights started to flicker and turn off and on. This was at 10:56 p.m. I started to think to myself that my battery must be failing, or that I have a short somewhere in the electrical system of my car. So I leaned down to pop the hood of my car so I can take a look at the battery. And that is the last thing that I remember doing. The next thing I know is I'm opening my eyes and I see nothing but the night sky full of bright stars. It was a cold night, and it seemed like I had never seen stars that bright in my life. I just sat up and looked around and saw absolutely nothing. Nothing at all. I was in the middle of a field surrounded by corn stalks left over from a recent harvest. As I came to my senses, I started to freak out. Where am I? Why the fuck am I asleep in the middle of a field? Where the fuck is my car? I got up and started walking towards the distant headlights I could see from the road about a half-mile away. When I got to the nearest intersection, I looked at the signs which read 350 north and 50 west. I was half a mile away from my car, which was just to the right off the main road. I started walking towards the headlights I could see on the main road. I can't say how long it took me to walk the half mile, but it couldn't have been more than 10 or 15 minutes. When I arrived at my car, all the lights were out. My battery had died, which struck me as odd, because I couldn't have been gone for that long. I looked at my phone, which was sitting in the passenger side seat, and the time was 2:17 a.m. Over 3 hours had passed since I had turned off onto the side road for the flashing lights behind me. I remember sitting in my car, completely dumbfounded, wondering what the hell had just happened to me. After about half an hour of just sitting there, I remembered that my battery was dead, so I got on the phone and called AAA to come out and give me a jump. It took about an hour for them to get out to me. I was a good distance away from the nearest town, at which time I just sat in silence, running through the possible scenarios in my head concerning what had just happened. To this day, I couldn't tell you what really happened to me that night. All I know is I can't think of any plausible explanation as to why I woke up over half a mile away from the car in the middle of a cornfield, more than 3 hours after I had stopped. I only share the story with one person, my uncle, as I'm sure I am sure people would either look at me like I'm crazy, or they would call bullshit on the whole story, and I can't blame them. If someone came up to me with a story like that so clearly mirrors a stereotypical encounter, I would probably not believe them either.